Hello everybody, welcome back to Mr. Smelly's Fragrance Reviews. So before we start today's episode proper, I just wanted to share with you one of my other hobbies. I noticed this week that DracDoc has been talking about maybe uploading some gaming footage, and I know some of the other fragrance people out there are interested in gaming too. Lex Ellis does quite a lot of gaming videos. So I just wanted to share with you a quick clip of me doing some online gaming, one of my hobbies that I really enjoy. And I hooked up with a friend over the pond, Brandon, over in the United States for a game last night, and I just thought I'd show you some footage of the fun that ensued there. Here we go. You absolute mother. You are going down. You are going down, down, down. That's all you've got. That's all you've got. Come on, come on, come on. Try me, try me. Yeah, you are a mother. You're going down, down, down. Die, die, die. Checkmate. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that little bonus there. Right, so into the matter at hand today, we're going to be looking at Acqua di Parma's original Colonia, an absolute classic fragrance, released way back in 1916. It was, I think, the first fragrance from this Italian niche house, and it's just simply entitled Colonia. So this is a citrus aromatic fragrance, and I'm also going to do a comparison on this one versus arguably its most popular and well-regarded flanker, which is Colonia Essenza from the same house. But first of all, I've talked about that one quite a lot before. I really like it. Just recently acquired the original Colonia, and we're going to talk about that one first today. So Acqua di Parma Colonia. Top notes on this one: we've got lemon, sweet orange and bergamot. In the mid we have lavender, Bulgarian rose, verbena and rosemary, and in the base we've got vetiver, sandalwood and patchouli. So we've got some very typical ingredients that you would expect in a citrus aromatic fragrance, and the note of lavender there and some of those herbal aromatics suggests that we could have a bit of a barbershop feel with this one, and that indeed is what you get with Acqua di Parma, the original Colonia. Let's spray it and I'll tell you what I get out of this one. Here we go. Okay, brilliant citrus opening on this one. It's a lovely lemony, tangy, orange mixture that you get, but I think from the beginning there's a little bit of a herbal element in there as well, so it's not out and out citrus. It's not like if you spray a modern citrus designer scent like Bulgari Acqua Amara, which I rather like. That's got quite a sharp citrus feel to it. This one, it's quite a soft, beautiful citrus that is very natural smelling, and even from the very beginning is mixed in with some nice floral and herbal notes. Now, this fragrance is a daytime fragrance. It's labelled as an eau de cologne. The Colonias are all labelled that way. I'm not sure really whether they're exactly eau de cologne strength or maybe more of an eau de toilette strength, and maybe just the Colonia thing is a name. I also noticed, by the way, on the back of the bottle, I've got a tester, so the notes are listed on the back there. It does mention oak moss in there too. So there's some very typical barbershop notes, I think, going on in this one. What you get is a really nice, very pleasant, easy to wear, possibly unisex fragrance. It just reminds you of a very crisply ironed, clean white shirt, and there's something of a retro feel about it. So apparently this one was worn back in the 50s and 60s by famous film stars such as Cary Grant, Ava Gardner, I think Frank Sinatra is another one that's been mentioned, and David Niven. So some real old school characters wore this one and were fond of this house before they became as well known as they are today. And a lot of people talk about this one evoking the feeling of being a 50s film star. People say, I think one of the best reviews is Katie Puckrick's one from way back, only a couple of minutes long, unfortunately, but she's capable of saying in 2 or 3 minutes what many fragrance reviewers fail to say in half an hour with her wonderfully descriptive reviews. And she really liked this one and said it just made you smell like you felt everything was all right with the world, and you would get by and things would be okay. So it's a lovely summery citrus smell, some great aromatics in there. The lavender and the herbal notes like rosemary come through quite strongly. I've been wearing it today. The performance was reasonably good. It wasn't brilliant, it was sort of average. Some people say it's disappearing within minutes, this smell. Just put a couple more on my hand. I think it's better on skin than on paper. The evolution is more interesting on skin. I found that the performance on it is really nice, and it basically makes you smell really fresh and soapy and clean, like a really well-groomed man. The downside on this one is it does smell a teeny bit old-fashioned. I think it does smell a little bit dated. For retro fragrance fans like me, that's not really a problem, but for the average person, there could be a fear that this one would make you smell a bit like a granddad or a grandma. It's not like the powerhouse fougere type fragrances of the 80s like Koros or Antaeus that have that old animalic kind of feel. It's much more pleasant and easy to like than that. But there is something of a retro feel and maybe a granny's bathroom type aura about this one potentially. So that is the downside on this one, and the performance is just okay but not great. So let's do a comparison with its most notable flanker, Colonia Essenza. This one was released much more recently in 2010, so almost 100 years later. Let's spray a bit of that one on paper. I'm known to be a big fan of this one, always advocating it in my videos. There's a lot of similarity. It also has a very bright citrus opening and a very smooth opening. But this one, as the bottle colour suggests, is a darker rendition of the original. There's something in here that is a little bit richer. It's almost like an eau de parfum version of the original. It's like they've taken the same basic DNA, but they've made it a little bit deeper, a little bit darker, more appropriate for slightly colder weather. This one feels very spring and summer appropriate. This one works great then too, but maybe for the fall and winter, I think you can still wear it. More nighttime appropriate as well, I think, with the Essenza, but you can still wear it in the day, I think. Now, the other fragrance, the Colonia, I think Floris 89 by the House of Floris, was once described by Luca Turin as being a continuation of soap by other means. And the original Colonia does feel a bit like that. It's almost a non-fragrance that just makes you smell like a really nice Italian soap that you've used to wash, and that smell stayed with you all day. I've actually got a nice bit of Italian soap here, made in Italy, Saponifico Artigianello Fiorentino. So it's from Florence somewhere. Let's have a sniff. Yeah, it really reminds me of the dry down of the original Colonia. They're not exactly the same, but there's probably a lot of the same notes gone into that soap. So really soapy and fresh is the original, but the downside is it could be not like a man's fragrance, but just like a continuation of soap by other means. On the other hand, the Essenza's got much more masculine stuff going on in there as well as that freshness. I think it could be the patchouli, it could be oak moss. There are things in it that just give me a teeny reminiscence of Antaeus by Chanel. It's nothing like that really, but there's just a bit of that masculine macho-ness underlying the essentially fresh smell. People also talk about neroli in Essenza. It's not listed. The notes for Essenza actually: lemon, orange, bergamot, grapefruit, mandarin, that's the top, mid, rosemary, rose, jasmine, lily of the valley, clove, and in the base, patchouli, white musk, and amber. So a lot of the same notes. Doesn't have the lavender, so maybe that means it's a bit less grandma-ish. And it does have amber, and maybe they've just changed the balance of some of the ingredients a little bit. So it's a little bit less soapy, although it is still quite soapy. Some people talk about a note of neroli, and I get a hint of that, but it's not like Neroli Portofino. It's much more masculine and butch. So for me, this one seems like a modern update that's a little bit more masculine and less old grandma-ish than the original Colonia. So I would say recommendability on these two: the original Colonia, only for the average person around about a 6 out of 10. My personal mark is an 8 because I really like old school scents, but for the money, it's not the cheapest scent in the world, but not the most expensive. But even then, you have to say there are quite a lot of options for a fresh eau de cologne type of thing, and you could spend less money and have a similar experience. I really like this one. I'm pleased to have it for my collection, but if I was a normal person just wanting 3 or 4 great fragrances, looking for the eau de cologne daytime freshie that I could maybe still rock at night sometimes, undoubtedly I would recommend for that person the Essenza from Acqua di Parma. This one, for recommendability, I'd give it a 9, 8 or 9, only that it's maybe a little bit mature, not so fun and playful for some of you. But my personal mark is 10 because I think it is just perfect at what it does. It's the ultimate eau de cologne for me that has staying power, a bit more like a strong eau de toilette or maybe even an eau de parfum. This one more at the bottom end of eau de toilette kind of performance. It's called a Colonia, and it's a bit soapy. It's beautiful quality, great high quality fragrance, but it's just got that nice fresh soapy smell of really nice citrus, soapy, herbs mixed together really well. But that's all you get. This one, I think you get a bit more sexiness. It would be more popular with the ladies, I think, and therefore it would be my winner, undoubtedly, of the two. But both fragrances, big favourites of mine. I enjoy them, and thank you very much for watching. I better go because I'm booked in for a game of Call of Duty with Lania Smith. So I'm off to do that. See you next time, and remember, whatever we're doing in life, let's project.